Welcome to the round 4 edition of the Brisbane Lions Fancast, finally with 4 points in the bag, Mike.
Yeah, it took 3 weeks, but the Lions got there, didn't they, Dom? So it was a ripping Q clash, probably the best one since the inaugural one in 2011.
I don't think that one was that great, to be honest.
You probably got a few people out there that think the same, but just quality-wise, it was really good, wasn't it? Like, it was wet, slippery conditions. We know the weather was horrible on Saturday, and just ebbed and flowed the whole night, didn't it? Brisbane got away, the Suns came back, they got away again, the Suns came back, and just we didn't know who was going to win until the siren went, really.
Yeah, no, it was definitely an intense match. Too soon to say that Jonathan Brown is back?
No, I think we can say he's back. I mean, he had 2 quiet weeks to start off. You know, he admitted that himself, that he was down the first fortnight and came back with 5 goals. And going into the match, you thought, oh, it's a wet night. How the big guy's going to travel? It doesn't look like good marking conditions, but he really stood up and led from the front. I mean, we might not be able to say he's back to his best, but he's certainly back to some level, isn't he?
Yeah, he's being a big influence out there. The other great player out of the night was Sam Mays on debut, who just oozes class, I think.
Yeah, how good was he? Quiet in the first quarter, but after that, he ran amok. He's probably jumped ahead of a few guys that were already in the team in front of him. So he looks like being an asset.
Best debut since Daniel Rich, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you can't expect that every single week from a first-year player, but we've seen what Sam Mays can produce, and it's pretty exciting.
The reserves also had a strong win over the Suns reserves, 110 points, which is... Well, we're starting to get used to those massive margins, to be honest.
I guess there's a lot of guys in that reserves, and this is what the Lions want. A core of probably 30 to 32 players you can pick from to play seniors, and those guys that aren't selected in the seniors are really making sure that they put their name forward when they go back to reserves. The Sam Dohertys and the Cal Bartletts, who I know you're a big fan of and would like to have a chat about. So it's those type of guys that are putting pressure on from below to win a senior call-up.
Cal Bartlett, he's had a very interesting career so far. Now, did his ACL in the draft year, which is why he slipped to us in the mid-20s in 2009. Many said he would have gone maybe top 10 had he not done that. And then he's had 2 other significant knee injuries, I think, during his time at the club. But he's really starting to show some of the form that we drafted him for now.
He's only really had 12 to 18 months of continual training, hasn't he? Not being injured. That's a scary thought, because most guys take 2 and 3 and 4 years of continual training to get a good base behind him, and he's only had that quite small window to get himself right, and so we're probably only now just starting to see what he can do. Now he probably just needs an opportunity. He's a rookie. He needs to get elevated onto the senior list, obviously.
Well, there may now be a space, as horrible as the news of Claybeam's injury has been, and we should touch on that, as horrible as it is that he's out for a significant while, he is a very mentally strong player, Claybeams, and I think we are both of the opinion he'll bounce back and be better from this.
Oh, I'm sure he will be. Like, I haven't had a heap to do with Clay at the club, but I've spoken to him a few times and very impressed by him. I think he's a very headstrong guy and very determined young fella, and I'm positive he'll bounce back. He's got a 2-year contract and he's got an opportunity to do that, and in the meantime, if Cal Bartlett is able to get a rookie elevation, he'll have an opportunity to push his claim for a senior spot, won't he?
He's almost coming in as a mature aged recruit at the moment, Cal Bartlett. Just could be really a story to follow this year, I think.
No one would begrudge him a chance, would they? Because he's had to work so hard and he's been through so many hardships. He's one of those sort of feel-good stories that everyone wants to see, at least have an opportunity to see what he can do.
Looking ahead to the North Melbourne game on Sunday, both sides probably aren't going as well as they'd hoped they would have been at this stage of the year.
Yeah, you're right. Like, Brisbane obviously won the NAB Cup and were probably hoping to be a bit better than 1 and 2 at this stage. And I'm not as deterred as a lot of other people are by North Melbourne's start. They're a very exciting team. I wouldn't have expected North to beat Collingwood, Sydney and Geelong. So I'm not surprised they're 0-3, and I think they're a very, very tricky team to play.
They're going to be hard to beat, especially on a ground they play so well in Etihad, which is the scene of the crime from round 1. Yeah. So there's a whole lot riding on the match when we return down there on Sunday.
There's lots, isn't there? I mean, Brisbane's 1 and 2, and we know coming into the start of the season, the focus was on the first 5 weeks. So you can't overstate how important this match is, because we know how difficult the run is from round 6 onwards. And the same goes for North Melbourne, though. They obviously can't afford to go to 0-4 because your season starts spiralling pretty quickly. So we've got that classic battle of 2 teams that are sort of vying for the same thing. They're vying for that jump up the premiership ladder and to go from the middle of the table to the upper end.
A bit more than that, I think it's also that this is the kind of match that for many years now we would have lost. And so it's going to be a determining match to see whether or not we've actually grown a bit.
We've got a very good reference point to 12 months ago. We went to Etihad with the same thought. This is a test for the Brisbane Lions, and on that occasion, the Lions failed. So this is a reference point. We're 12 months down the track and we get to see who's improved and who hasn't.
Definitely. Coming up next on the Fancast, we're going to have a chat with co-captain Jed Adcock and grab his thoughts on the upcoming match against North Melbourne.
At the Brisbane Lions, we love social media. Liking our fan page on Facebook or following @Brisbane Lions on Twitter is a great way to keep up to date with the latest Lions news and access exclusive behind-the-scenes content. You could also win some great prizes by entering one of our online competitions.
You're on the Brisbane Lions Fancast, and joining us for a chat is co-captain Jed Adcock. Welcome to the show, Jed. What do you think of Saturday's first win for the year?
Yeah, it was good. It was good to get on the board. It wasn't the most prettiest win. I think there's a bit of rain around, but it's always good to come away with 4 points.
Vossi said afterwards that he was a bit like you. He was happy to get the win, but there's a lot of areas to improve. Like, what can you take out of it going forward?
In terms of numbers, our clearances and contested footy and uncontested marks were up, I guess, compared to the other 2 games. No, I guess, you take away some players played some good footy that hadn't played great footy for the first couple of rounds, so positives.
There's been a lot of talk that things haven't quite clicked yet for the group. Is that your opinion on how you guys are tracking?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think so. Teams do their homework and they try and work you out, and we've got to adjust to that, but we've also got to get back to what we were doing well in the pre-season. And we thought we made a step forward in that area, but we've still got a little bit of work to do in a couple of areas.
Jack Redden and Daniel Rich had, I think, 9 and 8 clearances between them, and obviously Brownie kicking 5 goals. Like those... those guys are important, aren't they? And they found some form.
Yeah, they're very important players for us. Richie looks like he's going to get tagged every week, and why wouldn't you? He's an outstanding player. So for him to be able to work through that heavy tag, and I guess he won a lot of contested footy in and under the pack, and Brownie did, kick straight. I'm pretty sure 5 goals, 1 I think he kicked, which is really important for us. The last 2 weeks we kicked 17 points, and this week I think we kicked quite a few points again. So that's probably what hurt us, especially last week, kicking 17 points.
How do you feel you're personally tracking this year in your first year as co-captain?
I haven't been setting the world on fire, for sure, in terms of personal form. NAB Cup form wasn't too bad, but then I think in terms of, 1, defending and 2, rebounding, been a bit hit and miss, up and down. I'll just keep working at it.
Just looking at that back 6, how do you find you guys are functioning at the moment? I think the first couple of weeks there was probably a lot of ball heading in your direction. How do you find that cohesion in the back 6 at the moment?
Once again, it's probably a bit up and down a little bit. Probably a little bit off in finding the balance of attack and defence, and a few positional problems I guess we've put ourselves into when the ball's coming in. We got caught on the wrong side, or haven't quite helped across properly, and we've got to work out a couple of things at training. It's going to help us a little bit more, but pre-season our back 6 was really strong, so we're only talking a month of footy here, so we're not far away, but we probably haven't clicked quite how we want to yet.
One of the good news stories out of the game on Saturday was Sam Mays. What did you think of his game?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, it was great. I guess for an 18-year-old to show the composure that he showed was probably the biggest thing that I took out of it. To have that bloke that can get out in space, use the ball well, but then show some really good composure when he was in a fair bit of congestion and get through that was really nice. So hopefully he can continue on. Can
you tell the fans out there, Jed, a little bit more about Sam? He's a new guy. He comes across as a pretty shy sort of a young bloke. How's he sort of fitted in around the club?
He is quite shy. There's 4 of them that live together. All the new draftees live together, so they've got a great little place that they live in. So I'm sure they've got a few stories to tell compared to what I've got for you. But he's very quiet, very hard-working young fella. He had a really good pre-season, then got hit with a little injury just before we started playing games. But for him to, bounce back from that really quickly, shows some really good form. Credit to him.
I'm wondering if there's any apprehension within the group about returning to Etihad Stadium this week, which was the scene of the crime in the round 1 match against the Bulldogs, or if you're really looking forward to the chance to redeem yourselves on that ground.
Yeah, I think so, a little bit. Yeah, we really enjoyed playing at Etihad, and we had a lot of practice there through the pre-season. So besides round 1, we've got some really good form coming out of Etihad. So it'd be nice to play in dry weather footy again, as long as they close the roof, which I'm sure they will. Yeah. So, we really do love getting down to Melbourne, play in front of our old loyal Fitzroy fans, and obviously our Brisbane Bears and Lions fans as well.
And how do you rate North Melbourne, Jed? They're 0-3. They're probably a team that you have to beat, and the teams that you really sort of struggled against last year. Like, how highly do you rate them?
You mentioned they're 0-3, but they could probably easily be 2-1 or 3-0. So, they're definitely not playing bad footy. So we've got to make sure we take that into account. But you're right, when you talk about last year, these are the teams from, the mid-pack going on last year's ladder that we couldn't get anywhere near. So we've got to close that gap. These are the teams that we've got to make sure we're really competitive against, and beating them to, give ourselves a chance. by the end of the year.
Well, thanks for joining us on the Fancast today, and all the best for this weekend and the season ahead.
All right, cheers, guys. Thanks.
Before we go on the Fancast today, just a quick look ahead at the weekend. The reserves are playing against Broadbeach this Saturday. It's a 1:30 match at Giffen Park, Cooperoo. Simon Black is expected to play, so definitely one to get along to.
Yeah, definitely get out there and watch him. You don't get to stand that close to Simon Black too often and watch him play up close, do you?
Definitely not. As well as a raft of youngsters who are playing really well in that side, so get along and support the reserves. Then the seniors will be playing the twilight match on Sunday. It's a 4:40 start at Etihad Stadium against North Melbourne, live on 7mate in Queensland from 4:30, Fox Footy everywhere else. And it's going to be a vital match for the side.
It's a huge match, Don. We touched on it before. It's a massive match for the Lions. If they want to head up the ladder this year and improve on the performances in 2012, this is a must-win.
That just summarises it perfectly. And that concludes the Round 4 edition of the Fancast. Be sure to join us next week to discuss the Kangaroos match and look forward to the Round 5 match against the Demons, and we'll see you then.
See you next week.